My name is Effie, and I'm one of the delivery team's engineers. So today we are going to experience and get our hands wet with the import profiles for external data sources for Primo VE. In short line, the import profiles give us the option to import XMLs from external systems to our Primo VE and make these records available for our end users, so they will have the option to search them as well and also connect back to these external sources in case they wish to get the more information or the full text for these records. Today we're going to focus on how to import the Dublin core XMLs. We also have option to import other XMLs, and we call them generic XMLs. And the reason why we make this difference is because the Dublin core is the most common XML, and we already created a lot of presets for this XML type. In case, again, you have another different XMLs, we're going to discuss them in our next session. And in a nutshell, the way to do that is to create normalization rules for each XML tag and then import them to Primo VE with these normalization rules that we set. But let's start our session with Dublin Core. So before starting the session, let us just review real quick the agenda and the points that we want to cover during this session. So the first will be some sort of a general overview, and then we will see how to set the Dublin Core import profile. Then we will review different settings that are available in the import profile during this Dublin core set. Afterwards, we will see how we can set the material types for the Dublin core in case we have something unique. Then we will see how to run the import profile and view and see exactly what information we can understand from the reports after we already execute one of these import profiles. And then, of course, we will have time to address any questions. And I already prepared a few general questions that I encountered during my project that maybe could help. Maybe. Okay, so let's begin. In order to get to the import profiles, we need to first click on the Alma configuration, then select, of course, the discovery because we want to work on Primo VE. And then under the loading external data sources section, we have the discovery import profiles. Now, inside the loading the data sources section, you can see that we have a lot of different options. Let's just review them real quick. So the first one is, as I mentioned before, normalization rules for set normalization rules for the import profiles in case we need to maybe do some manipulations on the data before it loading into Primo. So this is the place to do that. Test these normalization rules in a safe environment just to see what is the outcome without running any processes. And here we have the option again to assign the normalization rule that we just created under the normalization process task. We have here the option to assign it to a task and then to assign that task to the import profile and direct the import profile to use the normalization rule that we just created. The discovery import profile, this is the page where we set the import profile itself, and this is where we spend most of our time in this presentation. And the last is the Dublin core type Dublin core type to discovery type mapping table. This is the session that we will see where we could set a different material type or to be more exact, to map some sort of a material type you have in your XML to one of the discovery material types and make it usable. So let's begin. So I hope everyone are familiar with this. This is our ALMA. As I mentioned before, here in the ALMA configurations, we have the discovery, and under discovery, we have the loading external data sources. And in here, we will click on discovery import profiles. So as you can see, we have the option to set a large number of import profiles. For example, we can set an import profile for each set we have in one of our OAI harvested, and this harvests, and this way we could just harvest, let's say, 3 of the let's say 90 sets that we have there. For this purpose, for this session purpose, I created the EFI test, and we will look into it later on. Before that, let us start our own import profile. So we will click here on Add New Profile. We will select the Discovery option. We will click on Next. Here we have general information regarding our import profile. So let's say that the profile name DC is already used in the previous import profile that I created. So I will use DC1 for this example. A general description to help you understand what this profile does. I will just call it DC1 in this point. The data source label is what we want to give, the label for our data source. This will be the label that will be displayed to the end user once he will see the record in Primo. Here again, data source code. Regarding the system here, we have additional presets for disk space and content DM. So if you're using one of these, please select it, and it will add additional presets to the import profile. In any other case, just click on Other. Import protocol, you can upload files directly from your desktop using FTP, or for our demonstration, we will select the OAI option. Same here, we will use the Dublin core. The generic XML is for all other XML types, but for our demonstration, we will select the Dublin core. Now, once I selected the import protocol as an OAI, this window opened and is now asking me to put OAI base URL. I just use one for example again. And once I will click connect and edit, what will happen is that Primo VE will send a request to this server and ask for general information that this OAI server holds. So let me click here on connect and edit. And again, this is the answer that I got. So we can see here general information regarding the first record that is published here and the different metadata prefix that this OAI hold. Please note that that the first one will be selected, and in most cases it's not the Dublin core prefix that you wish to work with. The one that we want to work with is the OAI DC. So please keep that in mind. And of course, we have all the different sets that this specific OAI holds. Yeah. Okay. The next step is the harvest start date. Out of the box, it's set to the first record that is located on this OAI system. In case you wish to harvest only the last month, you have the option to select it here, or the last year. And from that point on, this date forward will be harvested. Let us click here on next. Here is the option to select the process or the normalization rule to impact this run. Because we're currently loading Dublin core data source, it's already preset, so we don't need to select anything here. But we still have the option. So in this case, we will keep it clean and we'll click on next. In this page, you are setting the delivery. So here you will set the URL. You can use template or static URL from the data source record back to the original system. So in case it's a PDF, this is the place to set the template to that PDF based on the metadata from the XML. Now, once I will click Save, I will create the new import profile. Because I already created it, I will go back and see how it looks on the pre-created import profile that we did before this session. Just click on back. Clicking on back provides you also the option to go back and fix something that you might missed. Now, if we'll go to one of our import profiles and select the edit option, we basically have the same information we just seen on the wizard, but instead of a wizard, we now have the tabs. So we have the profile details tab regarding what general information regarding the data coming and how to get it. We have here the normalizations to select the normalization rules that we want to apply for these records. And we also have the delivery, same page that we saw earlier, in order to set the link for the end user back to the original system of this record. Now, you noticed that we have here a button called Open Test Page. If I'll click this button, PrimoV will send a request to the OAI system and ask it to get a record. Now we can set it by ID. The ID is, of course, the string coming inside the identification tag of the XML. Test first record, meaning that we will get the first record in the list, or test a random record to get a random record from the list. So once I will click on test, I will get here a nice picture of the XML that I am planning to harvest. In this case, it's Dublin core. And again, this just to help me see that indeed I'm trying to get access to the correct place with the correct data and the expected data. So let's say that we are now happy and we have our external import profile. And let's see how we could run it. So if we'll click here on the three dots and click on Run, it will give me a short description of what I'm about to run. And if I'm happy with it, I will click on Submit. Another option that we can see is in case we won't use the OAI, but let's say use the upload file directly from my PC. If I'll just click here on Edit and then select the upload files option in the import protocol, first thing you will notice that the OAI information block just removed because it's not relevant anymore. And then once I will click on save, when I go to the run page, I will see a whole different page. In this page, what I will need to do is to select a file from my PC, a file that I wish to use in order to load my data. Of course. Now, let's say that the job already completed and we want to see what was loaded. So we have here the option of history. Once we will click on history, we will get all the history of this tool tab with different statuses, of course, like completed successfully, completed but with errors, or failed in case nothing was loaded. If we will go to the report of this run, we'll see a little bit more information regarding the process that we just run. So in this case, we had one record, and let's see what is the status of this record. So we can see that it's not a new record, it's an updated record. It means that this record was already part of the system and we reloaded it. So it's under the updated records statistics. We have an option to see this record information. Once I will open it again, because it's only one record, I see only one line, but you can get all the records that you loaded. Let me just zoom in to make it a little bit more convenient. And here we can see two columns. Number one is the original system ID. So this is the string in the identification tab. This is what they saw. And it is translated to an MMS ID. So it's an ALMA system ID. And this is how it's stored in Primo VE. Now, please note that this is part of the Primo index, but not part of the ALMA index. So if you will try to search for this code in ALMA, you'll get 0 results. On the other hand, if you will try to search it on Primo VE, it will be available. Okay, so this is our record here. And if we will click it, let me again zoom in for the convenience. Here under the source, you won't see ALMA catalog, but you will see the name of the import profile that used it. If we set the delivery correctly, we will also see here in the links section a link to the source system that will enable us to go back to this record in the source system. Now, let me just recap real quick where we are here. So again, in order to access the import profiles, you need to click here. Click on Discovery. Again, click on Discovery, and under the Loading External Data Sources, you will see all the different options that we just saw now. We also have access to the loading external data sources from the quick access here on Discovery. you will see that we have the discovery import profiles on the quick access. For our next step in our demonstration, we will need a different item from this menu. So we will go to the full configurations. And here we will have the Dublin core type to discovery type mapping table. The reason why we created this mapping table was because we noticed that although we set a lot of good presets for Dublin core, customers still using normalization rules with their Dublin core. And the normalization rules were to set a material type based on a different strings that they had under DC type. So in order to make things easier, we created this mapping table. Out of the box, it's coming with the DC source that is the official DC source, and then translation to this DC source to the one that is known by the discovery material type. But in case, let's say, you're not using an alphabetic string for your material type, so for example, in your case, journals is number 12, for example, you could set it pretty easily here. All you need to do is just add row. In the DC source, let's put number 12 because it's journals. And for the discovery type, let's us put the discovery code. It is, in this case, as I mentioned before, it's journals. So it's once I will click add row, Primo VE will know that from now on, any DC material type come in that under DC type have number 12, it means journals. So if we'll go back to our example here, in this case it's image, but the material type will change to journals from, in this case, other, if it was only 12 without any mapping type, any mapping table sets. Let us go back to our agenda and see if there are any other. Okay. So seems like we covered it pretty much. So our next section will be time for questions. Are there any questions?
Yeah, we do have one question that's come in. Is the number of profiles limited?
Not that I aware of. Me personally, I set for one customer over 25 profiles and it went pretty well. It's hard to believe that you'll gain more than that, but me personally, from my experience and from other people that I worked with, we didn't experience that limitation.
Okay, another question that's come in. If I make a change to the Dublin core type to discovery type mapping after the setup and first run, for example, changing the DC source default from other to dissertations, how do I affect the changes in Primo VE?
You just rerun the import. Okay. I had few questions that I pre-added to this session. The first one is regarding search scopes. Now, is there a way to configure any search scopes for the external data sources? And of course, the answer is yes. So out of the box, once you load records to the system, they become part of the library catalog search scope or search profile. So they're already embedded in there. But if for some reason you want to distinct them from all the other library catalog records, you can add a condition in the search scopes. So if we'll go to discovery, under the search profiles, you'll see that we have here the custom local data scopes. And let us just see if we can add a condition. So again, just under the conditions, oh, okay, I can see that someone already did that. So under the inventory, you'll see the external data source, and then you have the option of equals. Again, if you want a specific, if you have few data sources and you want, few import profiles that you loaded and you want a specific import profile, not equal, if you don't want this specific data import profile, exists and doesn't exist. So this is in general regarding the import profiles. If you want to make them part of your library catalog or distinct them from your library catalog, okay? In general. So the difference between equals and not equals is a import profile from a list of import profiles that you already have. Exists, doesn't exist, it's for the whole of the import profiles in general without any descriptions. Okay. Our next question is, let's see. I set a material type for my external data sources, but it is not working correctly. When I say correctly, it means that it's not available in the advanced search or I don't see the facet for it. The reason for that is because you mapped your mapping table to something that is not part of the Primo V material types. And in addition to that, you didn't set it as, let's say, customized material type. So let's break it a little bit. Let us go back to our material type mapping table for Dublin core. Here we go. It's now displayed here. So Dublin core, here we go. In most cases, in the project, maybe somebody set the discovery type code a little bit wrong, maybe put here a capital or missed a letter. So from Primo point of view, it's something that is not familiar, and this is the reason why it's not know how to calculate it correctly. In addition, in other way to add a new material type or introduce a new material type to Primo will be by setting local resource type. So in here, you basically teach Primo how to use something that wasn't part of the out-of-the-box material types. So this is the 2 points that you need to keep in your mind when you approach setting a material type in Primo VE for your import profile. Again, if it's something that is familiar, all you need to do is select the relevant material type code from the discovery in the mapping table. And if it's something that is not familiar, you need to consider to set it as a local resource type and introduce it to Primo V. And I think this is the last question. Do we have a way to use local fields for external data sources? And again, the answer for that is yes. Local fields are, again, fields that are not that you can set for your personal use and are not preset in Primo VE. There is a different session for local fields as part of the Become an Expert series, but let me just try to narrow it only for our Dublin core material types. So here under Manage and Display local fields, we have a lot of different local fields. And if you noticed, each one of the local fields have its own individual placeholder. You need to keep that in mind. But if I'll click here on Edit, one of the checkboxes is use the parallel local field from Dublin core record. What it means is that you can set a local field, in this case, local field 4, in your Dublin core record by normalization rules. And then from that point on, once you mark this checkbox, all the information or all the configuration for this local field will use the information coming from local field 4 in the XML. I have here an example for the normalization rules that you use. So for example, in this example, we want to move relations and use it as a local field. So the normalization rules will be if relations exist, move it from relations to discovery local 1. So in our case, in the previous example, it will be local 4 because in this example, we're using local field 4. Okay. Just here. So I think this is it. Thank you all.
Please. We actually have a couple more questions that actually came in. The first one is, can the records of the external data source be removed from the library scope and used in a separate scope separately only?
Yes. The question is, if I will search the library catalog, I will get only library catalog records, but then that is clean for any import profiles, and then I have another scope for the import profiles. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yep. So in this case, you will need to create two. You will need to create two search scopes. Number one is with external data source condition not exist. Let me just see where my Alma page disappeared. 1 second. So let's go to discovery. Under search profiles, and in here on the custom data scopes, you will need to set two scopes. So let me just use this as an example. So the first one need to have the condition of external data sources doesn't exist. Okay. This is for your local for your local library search. So this scope will give you only the library info, only the, let's say, only the Alma records without the import profiles. Okay, this is scope number one. Scope number two, again, with the inventory external data sources, equals, and then put here the exact value of the import profiles that you wish to add with, of course, if you have more than one, use the AND logic. And this will only give you the specific import profiles records from this area. Any other questions?
Yeah, the other question, it's a rather long question, so please bear with me. In my link to resource, The static URL from the source is selected. It has Dublin core tag, :DC identifier, linking from Primo VE to, it works fine in most cases. There's a URL, and then it works fine in most cases. But where there are two variations available, it tries to link to one of them. But how do I ensure that link to resource only links to those identifiers?
In most cases, it will catch the first one because it's the easiest. It's the first one that is loading, and it's catching the first one. You will need to set it. It's a little bit long question. So first thing, I will suggest you to send the question to our GoVE mail, and there we will help you specifically with your issue. But the idea is to so let me just jump into the real quickly. In a nutshell, you need to find the hook, meaning that you need to find something that is common to all URLs that you wish to use. Okay, and then set it with the template. In the template, just put the URL as a string and then the parameters. But again, I think it will be better if you just send us the question, and then we will see how we can help you from that point on. But for the general information, yeah, in case you have more than one URL in your XML, it will take the first one that was loaded, so it's the first one that is printed, and in order to specify a specific URL, you will need to find the template, or let's say the pattern that will be true for all of your records, and then translate it to the templates in the discovery, in the delivery section that we have in the import profile. Thank you all. The main, let's say, the main subject of this session was to show you how to get started with your import profile and see that it's not that complicated. I hope I made the job. In any case, you have any questions or you wish to have more specific information regarding your system, please feel free to contact us, and we will guide you and advise you how to move forward with your GoVE project.